While hunting, Wilson encountered a terrifying scene. A black bear was charging straight at him. He fired his rifle, but before he could react, the beast knocked him to the ground. In the violent struggle, the bear's sharp claws tore open his skin. Wilson seized a wooden branch from the ground and struck it with all his strength, then grabbed a handful of dirt and flung it into the bear's eyes to blind it. Taking the chance, he scrambled up a nearby tree, but the bear followed closely behind, forcing Wilson to kick desperately in self-defense. Soon the animal dragged him down, sank its teeth into his leg, and pulled him for dozens of meters. Wilson had no choice but to play dead, hoping to reduce the bear's aggression. Just as he was about to lose consciousness, his companions rushed over, drawn by the noise. A volley of gunshots finally brought the beast down. By then, Wilson was barely clinging to life, his body covered in wounds. The doctor who examined him shook his head gravely but still stitched up the injuries, hoping against hope that Wilson might survive. At that moment, Pete urged the group to leave immediately, warning that if the local Indians discovered them, they would all be killed. His real motive, however, was envy of Wilson's abilities. Helpless, Wilson watched as his companions abandoned him. The next morning, the howl of a wolf jolted him awake. A gray wolf stood before him. In his panic, Wilson struggled, slipped, and nearly fell into the river. The icy water stung his hand, and miraculously, he found he could move his fingers again. He scooped up water to drink, discovering that his neck, too, could turn. Slowly, he lowered his head to the stream, and his parched throat was finally soothed. But just as he quenched his thirst, the sound of pounding hooves reached his ears. Summoning the last of his strength, Wilson rolled into a sandy pit to hide. When night fell, the temperature plummeted. To avoid freezing, he clawed sand over his body for warmth. In his suffering, thoughts of his family gave him the will to endure. After surviving the night, he fashioned a stick into a crutch. Struggling up a hill, he slipped again and tumbled down a slope, barely saving himself by clutching a tree root. Picking up a fallen cow bone, he smashed it open with a rock and sucked out the marrow for protein. Then he heard the jingling of bells. Indians on horseback were approaching. Wilson hid in the undergrowth, only to see another group of riders arrive, seemingly from a rival tribe. A fierce battle broke out between them, reinforcing Wilson's determination to return home. When the warriors finally left, Wilson crawled to their abandoned campfire and found a dagger, a short spear, and a coil of wire. Using the wire, he set a trap and caught a rabbit, which he roasted for food. He also gathered herbs, crushed them, and applied them to his fractured leg to fight infection, enduring unbearable pain in silence. After resting, he crafted a long spear from wood, doubling it as both crutch and weapon. Days turned into weeks. His wounds gradually healed, and he even managed to spear fish in the river. One day, while waiting for his catch to cook, the sound of hooves returned. More Indians appeared, seemingly to fetch water. Quickly, Wilson smothered his fire with snow and hid. From his hiding place, he saw a pregnant woman among them. As she bent to drink, labor pains suddenly seized her, and she gave birth beside a withered tree. The sight of new life brought back memories of Wilson's own mother and strengthened his will to survive. To protect his eyes from the blinding reflection of the snow, he smeared charcoal beneath them. Then, carrying what little he had, he set off again. Without a compass, he relied on traces of old campfires for direction. Leaning on his crutch, limping step by step through the frozen ridges, he pressed forward despite the cutting winds. 2 months later, Wilson finally caught up with the main party. Pete was stunned to see him alive and grew wary, fearing revenge. But Wilson sought none. The ordeal had taught him that hatred no longer mattered, only returning home did.